While being almost universally hailed as a land of light-hearted cheer and welcoming people, Ireland has always had a dark side. Hiding away in its sweeping hinterlands and ancient woods lie forces that defy scientific understanding, their stories shared by word of mouth around campfires of a bygone world. These forces aren't confined to the dark reaches of the natural world. They lie just out of view, ever-present shadows in the corners of man-made civilization, from drafty castle halls to gloomy city streets. It's no wonder that such forces would be so prevalent on the island that birthed Halloween after all. In this series, we will be exploring Ireland's dark history and investigating the many supernatural forces that stalk its towns and villages. Whether it's the infamous Keating of the Banshee, or the lesser-known entities of modern urban legend, join us as we uncover dark histories, document our investigations, and where possible, bear witness to them firsthand. John's Bridge, a vital artery connecting Kilkenny over the River Nore. Every day, thousands cross it, stealing glances at the scenic view of the castle, blissfully unaware of the tragedy that took place beneath their feet 237 years ago.
Suddenly swells into a torrent if it rains constantly for a few hours.
In 1763, a great flood took place, causing the River Nore to burst her banks as she has many times, as seen in this footage from the 1960s. For the low-lying layout of Irish Town, the damage was catastrophic. Many people lost their livelihoods, with every animal, tool and material swept away in the floodwaters. I visited the archives in the local studies section of the Kilkenny Library HQ, as well as the Archaeological Society Library in Roath House, to try and learn more about the flood. As outlined in the Old Kilkenny Review 1987-89, every loss was laid out in heart-rending detail, down to the last penny, and sent as appeals for reimbursement to an assembly under the bishop. One man, John Coffey, was a poor weaver who petitioned to be reimbursed only for a blanket which he had sent to be milled prior to the flood. That ye petitioner has been looking for said peace ever since the flood, by which means your poor petitioner had lost his health by the cold water, but no account of your poor petitioner's piece of blanket. That people with so little to their name lost everything they had is of course tragic, but there was a number among them who lost their very lives to the flood. It is here that this dismal tale takes a darker turn. So destructive was the flood that Green's Bridge, having been on its last legs since the turn of the century, was finally laid low by the raging floodwaters. Crowds flocked to John's Bridge downriver to witness the scene, eager to lay eyes on a sight that, to the eyes of one living in such a time, might have been the sort of entertainment seen only once in a lifetime. Excitement, awe, shock. The chance to say that they were there to see it all, a story to tell their children someday, all going through the minds of those present. But it was not to be. Excitement turned to horror as John's Bridge joined its counterpart, collapsing under the weight of dozens of onlookers and the force of the raging river. It is unknown precisely how many fell into the tumultuous depths below, nor how many were rescued, but it is known that between 13 and 16 people lost their lives to the river that day. 1763. In the beginning of October this year, a dreadful flood and sudden inundation filled the River Nore in such an alarming manner as to throw down Green's Bridge, St. John's Bridge, on the overthrow of which last bridge 100 persons were carried away and drowned by violence of the water. Also Bennett's Bridge, Thomastown Bridge, and several other bridges on the same occasion. Many houses in John Street were overthrown and people killed, The desolation in general was very distressful. While this parish register claims 100 people were swept away, it is unclear if this was merely hearsay, a rough total of people who died in the flood in general not specific to the bridge, or reference to the crowds of people who stood on John's Bridge immediately prior to its collapse. In this letter written to his daughter, local renowned entrepreneur and inventor William Coles makes reference to the deaths at John's Bridge. Many persons who were on John's Bridge when it was swept away are drowned and several in other places, the melancholy particulars not yet known. The bridge has been rebuilt several times since that infamous day, and the horror of the incident seems to now be confined to the pages of history. However, the echoes of the terror felt that day have manifested in ways all too befitting the morbid history of this dark little town. Numerous eyewitness accounts have reported sightings of spirits haunting John's Bridge over the years. Some say that they stand on the bridge itself, looking towards Greensbridge as they did in the seconds preceding the collapse. Others say that they can be seen as shadowy figures standing on the river's surface, most visible on foggy mornings. Other accounts claim that they can be seen as pale faces beneath the water's surface, forever trying to claw their way to the banks as they did in their final moments. The spirits taking the forms of shadow people may be the most likely manifestation. Shadow people have been linked to tragedy and human suffering, appearing during times of great stress or fear, feeding on the negative emotions we release during such times. In the wake of the bridge's collapse, and the overall effects of the flood on the city, sick loved ones, grief, anxiety about what the future holds, it's no wonder that they would manifest in such a form. Given how little any of us truly understand about supernatural activity, it could be that each rumoured variety of manifestation could be true at any point in time. Who are we to specify what way such forces might choose to appear? My question is this: the bridge itself is almost always bustling with car and foot traffic, as is the adjacent canal, quays and hotel. With surroundings so full of life at all times, why then are the sightings, and by extension the evidence, so hard to come by? We muse that part of the reason that the sightings are so rare is actually because the area is so busy. Weddings and events happening in the hotel would take the attention of those in attendance only feet from the river. People crossing the bridge are too caught up in the banal day-to-day goings-on to notice something in a river they pass almost daily, and any tourists who lay fresh eyes on the river may then have their gaze drawn up towards the castle, thus missing any subtle signs of supernatural activity in the corner of their eyes. In a nutshell, nobody sees anything because they simply aren't looking. Even now, as I sit here recording this footage, pale faces might be staring at me through the freezing black depths of the Nore, imploring me to tell their story. Though I could not find any information about those who died, their names, descendants, where they were laid to rest, I intend to honour them by telling their story regardless. To get a better grasp on what stories and evidence might be out there, I decided to send out some feelers and see if anyone has had any experiences or sightings of their own. Despite how seemingly common the story was, very few people had had any experience with seeing the ghosts of the Nore. 2 Reddit users shared stories that they had heard in years past, claiming that the silhouettes of the dead could be seen on the river if the anniversary of the bridge collapse happened to be a stormy day, with one user claiming that the spirits could be seen if it was rainy, or be heard wailing if it wasn't. The anniversary in question being the 2nd of October, according to this record in the Old Kilkenny Review. During the 2002 excavation of the riverbed coinciding with the flood relief scheme, many pieces of old masonry were found, the remains of the old bridge among them. It was to be expected that no human remains would be found, having been hidden beneath 2 centuries of silt and running water. The lack of sightings, I reasoned, might have something to do with where the bodies came to rest. The waters were high, fast and powerful. It could be that those who weren't crushed by rubble met their fates further downriver, having drowned, their remains carried downstream well into the nearby countryside. Many are the sightings of these spirits that may have been missed altogether. On foggy mornings or dark nights, with no lights or human presence to witness them, these spirits may have haunted these silent waters, alone and unseen, far from the site of their untimely demise. There exists plenty of information about the costs of repair and the administrative side of things, as a council was formed to oversee the reimbursement of the local population. But of the people who died, their names, where they were buried, journals or records of living relatives, I could find nothing at all. If anyone watching this video knows anything, please feel free to share in the comments. Though the investigation is by now concluded, you never know what doors some stray bits of information can open up further down the line. So, with no info to go off of, no sightings or evidence to relay, I had no choice but to go hunting myself. However, the conditions of the investigation were hard ones to meet. Option 1, I could wait for a foggy morning as the legends tell of, but even though we live in a country as rain-soaked as Ireland, truly foggy days are few and far between, much less one that I would be free and available to investigate on. Option 2 being that I do things as properly as possible and commence my investigation at around 8 in the morning on October the 2nd, hoping that it'll be a stormy or a foggy day, and hope to capture either a sighting of the ghosts or the sounds of their wailing. Needless to say, it's a bit of a tall order, but I wouldn't be an investigator worth my salt if I didn't at least try. So whether it's weeks or months from the time I record this segment of the video, I will endeavour to document the legend as best as I can. In the meantime, I'd like to talk about something that may play a part in this haunting: the river itself. The creator of the famed Fatal Frame series, Makoto Shibata, holds a belief that ambient water plays a part in how likely spirits are to manifest in the physical world. Fog, rain, even humidity may act as a medium between us and other realms. In his interview with Molly L. Patterson, he states, "I think there needs to be a level of moisture in the air in order for ghosts to appear. I was in Los Angeles in the summer, and the experience made me really feel like I doubt I would run into any ghosts around here. Then I went back to Japan and immersed myself in the kind of summer humidity you only see in Japan. It made me realize once again how much of a necessary element it was. When you're surrounded by moisture or water, you're surrounded by something larger than yourself. The boundaries between you and the rest of the world grow ambiguous." I believe he's onto something. Try this. Walk down a country road at night. No lights, just your bare senses to guide you unaided. In summer, it feels more open, more inviting. It's warm, the air is fresh. You might feel a little uneasy as your eyes adjust to the darkness, but otherwise it's fine really. Try the same thing in winter, and I bet that it feels much more daunting. You might feel a sense of trepidation or even dread at the idea of walking out into the cold, damp dark alone. I believe that our instincts clue us in on something, outside of the immediate hostility of the mundane world at night in winter. So all that considered, what better conduit for spiritual activity could there be than an ever-present body of freezing black water on a foggy October morning? If one puts themselves in the shoes of people living back then, it's easy to imagine the absolute misery. Floodwaters everywhere, livelihoods and homes destroyed, lives lost. Even once the waters had subsided, everyone would have had to deal with the damp, rot and mould that would likely never be cleansed. Perhaps the collective pain and death provided the necessary energies for the spirits to manifest themselves, aided by the abundant water drowning the town. I decided to venture down to the bridge on the morning of the collapse's anniversary, October the 2nd. I had hoped for fog or rain, but it turned out to be a mild morning, breezy and clear. It was an eerie feeling knowing that while this morning was so mild, a historically destructive storm raged on this same day over 2 centuries ago. From 7 AM to just after 8 I waited, hoping to see any signs of the spirits, but it was not to be. I watched the waters like a hawk, hoping to see shadows or to hear wailing. The hour of the anniversary came and went, and as the town began to fill with the life of a new day, any connection to the supernatural that I felt began to sever. I spoke to a local gentleman named JJ who was out walking his dog, who told me that he walks down the canal most days, and he has never seen anything untoward in the river in all his time doing so. I'd hoped that the anniversary date would lend some power or significance to the spirit's manifestation, but ultimately the conditions just weren't right. I won't say that the tale of the spirits has been debunked. Perhaps I might be lucky enough to see them some foggy or rainy morning when the conditions are better met in future. Until then, I'll keep my camera on me. The flood of 1763 isn't the only time that John's Bridge has collapsed. It has been destroyed in storms past, in 1447 and also 1564. The bridge as it stands now has been built in 1910, and couldn't possibly have foreseen the sheer amount of cars, trucks and people who cross it every single day. With fierce storms and flooding becoming more frequent as the years go on, the question remains, when will it collapse next? And who on that fateful day will join the spirits of the River Nore?